Hello and welcome guys to what is going to be a video about all the specific details about all of the units that have been flashed in this video by the CEO Siroga. Now, I've gone over this very briefly, but there's some really cool units that I'm excited to talk about. We're going to talk about their weaponry, their loadouts, their predicted costs, and just all the stuff that you might not know. So I'm going to go into a very deep dive about all of these units one by one with a bit of history, bit of weaponry, all that kind of stuff, and its capabilities that we've seen already from the open beta. Now, I gotta say, a massive thank you to this guy called Krylov. Here's his picture on the screen. He's really helped me out here. So he's a bit of an expert when it comes to Russian weaponry, so it's really nice to get his help. Really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into it. Right, so the first unit we're going to talk about is this one. The first one that flashes up very quickly. It's the beautiful Pogranichniki, but the very beautiful good boy that is here, which is obviously a German Shepherd. Right, let's talk about the weapons quickly. That is an AK-74U. You might have played it in Call of Duty Black Ops back in the day. And it's quite clear to see that these are RPG-26 launchers that they've got on them. Now, it's hard to tell what that is. Probably not machine gun, because you don't strap machine guns like that to your back, so it could be a Dragunov or a marksman rifle of some sort, but obviously we've just seen the buttstock. I'm not going to say for certain what that is. Now, I really hope... by the way, new hanger. That's the new hanger that you can go for. I really hope that the dog is not actually in the game. I think it's beautiful and it looks great, and I've got one. I've got a German Shepherd. Here it is on the screen for you. It looks great, but I wouldn't want to bomb it. I wouldn't want to shoot it or anything like that. So I really hope they actually take it out for in-game. We don't need it. So these are the Pogranichniki, the border guards, and yeah, very small recon team. I think it's going to cost probably about 50 points, similar to the American Scouts. Okay, so my mistake, I mean the Striker Scouts, where obviously it's a 6-man squad. Here we can see it's a 4. Don't know if you include the dog as an extra man. They've got 4 bazookas. We can see that the Russian guys have got 3. So yeah, I think it's fairly reasonable that we can expect them to be 50 points or less, with the same sort of stats in terms of vision, armor, and stealth capability. Cool, let's move on to the next one. Right, bang, here we go. The next squad is, without a shadow of a doubt, the Rosgvardia. Now, these guys are the Russian National Guard. And we can see straight off the bat that those are AK-12s, so Russian's modern AK. Doesn't shoot the 7.62, it shoots a smaller cartridge, 5.45. Am I right in that? Yeah, I think so. So yeah, it just basically helps with the ammo load capacity, and we already know that AK-12s are in the game already. Now, what's this marksman rifle back here, you might wonder? Well, initially I thought it was going to be the similar rifle that the VDV Spetsnaz has. So I thought it was the SVDK, but as a matter of fact, it is the SVDM. Possibly the 2018 variant, and again, people have been helping me with this information, but I'm sure that the stats are going to be very similar, if not the exact same, to this rifle in game. So you've got basically a marksman squad, which is going to be really cool to see. A sort of, you know, a mixed anti-infantry and marksman kind of squad, but you can also see just back here there's a launcher. Now, it's very hard to tell just from this tiny little fraction. Like, feel free to zoom in, but I think that's a thermobaric launcher, and I know that in real life they've been procuring the RPO Schmel. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but either way, we can see that it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-man squad that's got a sort of standoff and thermobaric capabilities. Quite an interesting team there. Alright, we move on to the heavy equipment. That's the last infantry squad shown in game. We already know about Spetsnaz Alpha Group and Vimpel. I've made shorts on this before. We already know that they're going to have RPG and thermobaric capabilities, those two squads. Now, this is the Uragan 1M 9K512. So, yeah, like I said, we're going to be very detailed here. And it's been in service since 2016. But this is obviously a newer generation of Russian MLRS. We can see here that it's got, how many tubes is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, and another 3, so 15 in each thing, and that's going to be, well, 30 MLRS shells. That's a huge amount, but they do look like they're going to be smaller than the current Tochka. So yeah, they can be swapped out with the same one as the sorry, not the Tochka, the Smirch, of course. And that's when it goes a little bit different. That's when it breaks down into the smaller amount of tubes. So this version right here. Now I don't know if they're going to be mutually exclusive or if they're both going to be available in the game. So you've gone from between the 220 mil humongous missiles and the 300 mil missiles. So yeah, quite a big difference there, obviously. Here's some of the pictures of the Kamaz version for you. But long story short, it's a slightly faster, more mobile frame and half the ammo capacity of the Tornado, which again we've already seen in the game with the motorized. Here she is, here's the Smirch. Yeah, those huge tubes that we see, obviously they're identical, no surprises there, just you get 12 of them. Obviously we see that they're arranged in a 6-pattern, and this is the 300 mil of HE devastation, whereas on that Uragan that you saw a second ago, it's probably going to be 220 mil, so less, well, okay, more ammo, smaller shell. Quite interesting. It's the same story for the Tornado S, and I imagine the ranges are going to be identical. So is the price going to be half? Probably not. Probably is take a third off, I reckon. So yeah, exciting stuff. Let us move on. Right, so this is the camera. Right, okay, this vehicle, I just really like it for many reasons. But one of which is the fact that it just looks cool. I don't know what it is. I think it's just rather beautiful. Right, this is the BMP 97. And essentially, you know, you've seen the World War II version of this. You can see that it's equipped with a 30mm cannon, and again, this is already in the game. Let me quickly show you it on the Typhoon. So let's switch cameras here. Here's the Typhoon, and when you put this on, it's the 2A42 30mm cannon, which by the way is better than the 72, ironically, which I imagine is a later version. But yeah, exact same specs, smoke launchers, but you might notice that on the actual thing that we've been shown from the game, you can see that right here is a 30mm grenade launcher as well. I just actually clicked to spin the thing just because of how great it looks, but yeah, there's a 30mm launcher on here, so it's going to be a smidgen more expensive. In terms of carrying capacity of troops, however, it's unclear, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to take like 7-man squad in them. There's also different versions of this. It's got the more like the BTR 82 turret style. So again, let me just get that up for you. Where is she? BTR 82, right. And switch up the camera. Here we go. So it can have one of these mounted on it instead. I'm not sure the purpose of that, if that other turret is already pretty serviceable. Here's the 72, where again you see the stats actually, it does less damage per minute. Let me bump it up for you like this. So 165 per second, 325 versus 2.6 per second. So the 42, even though I think it's an older cannon, is better than the 72. Not sure why. Cool. Right, so yeah, we're gonna have basically one of those in the game. There's also the version to have a Strela on it, and again, I'm just gonna have to show you the picture right now. Here we go, and essentially, I mean, yeah, it's the same as the Strela 10 already in the game, but on a much more mobile platform, and I actually really love this weapon, especially for how quickly it moves. Especially for its price, and I'm going to love it even more with how quickly that 97 is going to move. So yeah, really good, fantastic bit of kit. These are fire and forget missiles. I'm not sure if the ammo capacity is going to be the same. Maybe it is just going to be 4 shots and that's it. Maybe seats for passengers instead. But what I'm hoping for is that you get like a really mobile, fast version of these, which is just going to be great. Yeah, very exciting stuff indeed. Well, moving on then. What is next? Right, this is the Chabours. Let me just unbutcher that pronunciation. Chabours M6. And again, we've already seen one of these in the game. I mean, it is essentially the exact same thing that the VDV already have. Where's this little buggy? Cool buggy, no doubt about it. You can see that it's also got a Metis on it, and obviously that buggy, the Chabours, also has it. 3-seat capacity, I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly identical, and I wouldn't be surprised if all these loadouts are identical. Now, you might have seen that in his videos where he talks about how the minigun is not effective at all, really, and I think, in general, miniguns should be pretty powerful. Like, 7.62 with a huge amount of firepower. They're just beautiful, and I don't mind them being more expensive than a 50, but yeah, they just need to mow down squads of infantry, because that is exactly what they're designed to do, or at least kill a pilot with relative ease. Back to this then. So yeah, here's the buggy. Oh, also, sorry, quickly mention that, machine gunner in front. So just like the Baltics have the Wolf, which is the same as the Arsov, yeah, you just get 2 weapons instead of 1. I'm actually really excited to use this. I don't think it's going to pair up well with the VDV at all, however. Right, onto the armor next. Now, this is quite obviously the T62. There's no doubt in anyone's mind what that is. I think I've seen, unconfirmed, that this is going to be 120 or 115 points, which is, you know, insane for how much firepower you get. Even if you use it just as an anti-infantry tank, that, you know, you get your 2 smokes. Obviously, it's got the smoke launchers here. Just use it to pound infantry positions. You're going to be in for a good time. Because, yeah, it's not going to be able to deal with tanks very well, but IFVs and infantry, no issue whatsoever. So if you do pair this with a good anti-tank tank, like the Armata maybe, it's going to be a very, very nice combination. On the flip side, you've got the T72A, which is, again, in a very similar position to the T62. It's not going to have much teeth, but again, this amount of armor for such a dirt cheap price is always going to be absolutely welcome for the Russian spammer enjoyer. Right, we're on to the Gaz Tiger, which means tiger, obviously. You guessed correctly. Now, what do I have to say about this vehicle? Well, it's basically Russia's answer to the Humvee, and boy does it have a lot of them. And similar to the BMP-97, you can change its loadout with quite a lot of stuff. Now, I've seen Iglas on top of this thing, and I've seen anti-tank missiles on top of it also. So, obviously, quite a lot of stuff to choose from. I've also seen a 50 cal and an AGS dual sort of weaponry kind of styled combo, and the 30mm cannon on top of it as well. So, really, really cool bit of kit. This is the TOS-2 Tosochka, which is essentially, we've already got the TOS-1 in the game, but this has slightly fewer launchers, but they're going to be humongous, absolutely humongous, explosive shells, which is similar to the one, again, that we've already got in the game, and let me show it for you now. This is already in the game. It's a beautiful bit of kit, and everybody who ever faces the brunt of one of these knows that it's an absolute pain in the arse. So this is the TOS-1 weapon set, however, and like we've established, this is going to be the TOS-2. Now, we can see on the picture here that it's got less tubes, so it's got 15 shells, whereas obviously, yeah, in game they've got 24 and 30 on the TOS-A, but the shells themselves are longer. Now, what does that mean? Well, probably higher range. Now, it might be a lighter, sort of more mobile version, but it's definitely going to have more range, and there's a school of thought that the TOS-2, obviously the upgrades, newer model, is going to have smart ammunition, so it's going to potentially be laser-guided thermobaric destruction on this mobile quick platform that's going to be able to resupply really well, by the way, and very quickly. So that's going to be quite interesting how that actually works, but I'm expecting it to be a hefty bit of kit. No smoke on it though, because it is just a vehicle, but it's honestly just really exciting to see this unit in the game. Right, this little helicopter thing. Right, okay. Now, this is why I'm struggling to find some information. So, after having done some research, this is the KA-226. I'm going to for a picture of it as a police helicopter. And as you can see, that's pretty cool. You can detach the rear module to replace it with stuff, which is really cool. So this entered service in 2002. It's a legit helicopter. It's been around for a while. It works. First flight was in 1997. That's Wikipedia talking. Yeah. But as you can see, it's obviously a real thing. And obviously, we know there's a lot of fake, unicorn fairy units like the Armata, kinda, like the Comanche, again, kinda. At least they're all real prototypes. But this thing is the real deal. It's an absolutely fine helicopter. Now, how many people can actually seat in the back? That is the big question that we really care about. Very, very not clear. When we compare it to the Little Bird, which is tiny, of course, that can fit 6 people. So I'm wondering if it's going to be a 7 or slash 8, very cramped 8-man job in the back. It's really, really, really hard to see. But either way, I'm very excited for it. Price-wise, I imagine it's going to be exactly the same as the Little Bird in every way, shape, and form. In terms of maneuverability, the stealth, etc., it's going to be a nice, nimble answer to America's helicopter. Now, there is a big risk here that it becomes a bit symmetrical, and I think they are trying to steer clear of that. And I mean, there's a big risk of Rosgvardia being, I don't know why they didn't just call it Rosgvardia. Why did they call it Russian Guards? I mean, Rosgvardia sounds better. Anyway, a big risk of the units becoming very similar to the Americans and very overpowered. But I think they're gonna, rest assured, they're pretty good at balancing things out. And I think they do really care about the game being enjoyable for everyone, not just for the people who buy the DLC. Cool, let's move on. What's next? Right, yes, helicopter I know a lot more about. Whoa, hold your horses, let's get back. So the KA-50. Now this is an exciting bit of kit. Right, let's talk about it in a bit more detail. Well, actually, you know what, let's show the KA-52 just so we have something again to compare it to, its closest neighbor. Now, obviously, for those who know the history, the KA-50 was the prototype, which then led to the KA-52's development. They realized that one pilot wasn't enough to fly and act as a gunner. You need a pilot and you need a gunner for attack helicopters. But yeah, ejecting rotor blades for both helicopters, which is really, really cool. Let's talk about the weaponry then. We can see the KA-50 it does have, or will be able to carry, Vickers ATGM. Again, we've already got this on the KA-52. You can see the KH-25ML and the R-73 missiles on this prototype here. So really, really cool stuff as well. Now, let me just show you that. So here we are, the Su-24 vehicle we're all familiar with. It's got these missiles. Now, they are pathetic on their own. They really aren't great. But when you consider that they're going to be on a helicopter, it actually makes them kind of appealing. The other missiles we've got to worry about are these R-73s. Now, obviously, this is a direct answer again, and I am a bit worried about the over-symmetrification. That's a good word that I'll make up. Symmetrification of all the units. And again, we've got this, which is a great unit on itself. 125 points for 2 Sidewinders. Jesus Christ. One of the best anti-helicopter helicopters in the game, especially for that price. Yeah, so you're going to have the same sort of effect on the KA-50. Now, the platform itself is beefy. There is no doubt about that. This is a beefy platform, and I'm sure the KA-50 is going to have very similar stats, very similar to this. Like, literally, the only difference between the two helicopters is a few next-gen upgrades, but otherwise... and the 2 pilots, but otherwise it's the same helicopter underneath. So yeah, is it going to be a cheaper, more sort of available version than this? I kind of have a feeling that it might be. So yeah, stand by for that. That's going to be crazy. Okay, next thing that's worth talking about is going to be this thing. So this thing, I'll just set it up exactly how we see it in what you're about to see next. Right, let's see it, Fergie. KA-50. And the Mi-8 in all its glory. This is the most recent, most up-to-date, most modern Mi-8 that they have. As you can see, it's got armor paneling here, it's got sensors for days, some steps as well, and beefier engine intakes. So I don't know why it has 2 engine intakes here, a 3rd one and a 4th one. And what is that, an auxiliary intake as well? Christ. But this is going to be beefy. Now, look, I put the same rockets on it, so when you look at in-game, so here we go, here's that, and in-game, these gun pods look very different. Actually, it was these rocket pods instead, and they were the other way around, but that's a small detail. So S13s are S13s. There's no differences there. Voila. Okay, and then we move on to the guns. You can see quite clearly that's a very different type of gun pod. I think that's going to be a 23mm autocannon, whereas this is obviously a... Oh, sorry, this is a... Yeah, sorry, this is a dual 23mm autocannon, obviously on both sides, giving you 4 guns, whereas that's potentially going to be just a single one. Or who knows? Or maybe a single 30mm. I honestly have no idea. Now, with the Iglas on the side, this has got 4, 2 on each wing, of course. We don't know what's on the flip side of this helicopter. It could be ATGMs, but this makes it quite attractive to have 4 Iglas on a transport helicopter. It just means that, you know, you can't get caught out by those pesky killer eggs, etc. Another thing is to note is the fact that it just looks great. I don't know what it is. I think it's kind of hideous, kind of ugly, but also fantastic at the same time. Having this sort of capacity, I mean, for the price, is reasonable. 21 men stuffed into the back. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention. Big cord machine gun on the side there as well, so that's an extra bit of weaponry. I wonder if its ECM is going to go up. In terms of performance, you can expect it to be identical to this, but yeah, maybe slightly higher ECM just to set it apart. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. The Yak 150 is next. Now, I actually thought this was a red arrow when you first look at it. Very similar in many ways. Obviously, that's the Hawk. It's quite clear now that it's got S13s and R73s on it. Now, who are we going to compare this one to? Well, obviously, it's quite easy. It's the Albatross. Also a 2-seater variant, but I've got a feeling that the Yak is going to be quicker because this is a painfully slow aircraft. Now, the Osprey is quicker than this aircraft. How ridiculous is that? A jet-powered aircraft being overtaken by a helicopter. Yeah. Also featured in a James Bond film. Pretty cool. But long story short, I think this is nowhere near as good as what we're about to get with that Yak. That Yak, I think, is going to be insanely powerful for many reasons. Not only, obviously, for a dirt cheap price, I think its armament is going to be better. We can see that it does have S13s and an S... Oh, Christ, what's that missile called again? Let me find it in-game for you. The Su-25 loves it. Right, okay. S-25s on the Su-25, who would have guessed? Yeah, very powerful rockets, very potent. And in actual fact, when you do a loadout with the S-13s, it does work exceptionally well, and it is very powerful. So I highly recommend trying this in just an S-13 loadout if you haven't already. Seriously, just put only S-13s, maybe some S-8s in there just for an extra bit of firepower. And for 235 points, nope, for 205 points, this is a very, very insanely capable aircraft. You don't even need to bother with the Vickers or anything like that. Right, beautiful stuff. It's going to be a quicker... Can the Yak 130 afterburn? Why don't we find out on the internet? Yak 130 afterburner? Question mark? Switch that off. No, that is not the... Fuck's sake, cheers, Google. It does not have afterburner and stays subsonic. Okay, but I still imagine it's going to have a nice bit of speed on it, and it looks great. It looks absolutely great. Okay, this next vehicle is super duper interesting for me, and I've got a lot of information to share with you about it. Right. Okay, so first of all, what is it? It is the S-70. So we already have, you know, the F-117, which is a stealthy aircraft, similar in shape and design, of course. We've got the Sentinel. That's obviously a more closer comparison, but this is probably going to be more of an attack plane. So the way it's actually been designed, and again, let me show you some pictures, is to be an accompaniment of the Su-57, and that's how future air warfare is going, by the way. You're just going to have a mothership with surrounding drones that will take the missile, will get shot down instead of obviously the mothership, which is the Su-57 in this case, and you're going to have a shit ton of these drones escorting it, with all the advanced weaponry, and you can all fire that from your little cockpit inside the protected mothership, which is obviously kind of crazy. It's the way the English Tornado or Tempest program is going to be replacing the Typhoon, which obviously replaced the Tornado, I meant to say. So yeah, really, really, really cool. It's going to have armament on it. We're not sure what though. I would not be surprised if it's definitely got bombs on it. If it's got different, a very similar loadout in general to what the Su-57 can carry already. So here's the Su-57, right? Beautiful, gorgeous plane. Love the paint scheme. Paint schemes don't do anything anymore, but it just looks great. I would not be surprised if genuinely all of these weapons are available to the S-60 as well. I genuinely wouldn't. Including the bombs, including cluster, including cruise missiles. I don't know if that might be a bit too heavy for it. And I would be a little bit surprised if its speed is as fast as the Su-57. Again, it is designed to fly in sync with it, but yeah, there's a lot of really cool features that you could do. And I've already got a feeling that when we talk about deck pairings, maybe the VDV will be a really nice combo with the guards. Could potentially be a great combo. I would not be surprised. It's a lot of great overlap, and it's got the heavy firepower that you're missing in terms of the tanks. Moto, if you want to MLRS your enemy to death, that is going to be absolutely the combo for you. Coastal could be actually done because you get the mobility of the fast supply vehicles and you get the beefy raw firepower of the Marskaya, which is actually really, really interesting. So quite a lot of good combinations for you to consider. Now, when we look at the next unit, which is the Tu-95, it is basically exactly the same as the Tu-142, apart from this is a maritime reconnaissance sort of aircraft, which does, this is radar for the ground, for submarine hunting, etc. Obviously, the Tu-95 is a pure strategic bomber, and it doesn't have that sort of equipment, so it can carry more bombs. These are Fab 3000s, and I think the 95 can carry the Fab 9000s, so humongous bombs, and it can carry potentially 4 of them. So yeah, this is what it's going to show next, I do believe, after the MiG-31s. Here we go. Yeah, have a look at this picture right here. So obviously, those bombs on the ground there are humongous. They're the 9000s, and yeah, as you can see, there's 4 of them. Beautiful plane, weird little face. It's still got a gunner in the back, which is classic. This was actually the Russian president's or the chairman of the Soviet Union's transport plane, because that's what the Russians had. It was the biggest, fastest propeller plane. It still is the biggest and fastest propeller plane in the world, although it's obviously turbine powered. Yeah, really, really cool. MiG-31 time. Alright, let's talk about this MiG, which is really cool, but that's more the air-to-air variant and bomber interceptor variant, and this one, which is the ground attack variant. So I have got some notes for these guys too, don't you worry. MiG-31s are super cool. Probably the first model aircraft I remember building as a kid. They just look right. For whatever reason, they just look great in my opinion. So the MiG-31 BM is going to be super interesting. That is the long-range sort of fighter, and that can carry 6 R-37s. It's going to be the only plane in the game that can carry 6 9-kilometer missiles. Now, we've already had it leaked, however, that it's going to have absolutely atrocious maneuverability. So yeah, let me just again show you some more planes in the game. The Su-57, no matter what you do, can carry 4. Same for the F-22, same for the Su-35. Having 6 on board is going to be great. But this is obviously mobile, has good ECM, has good agility, and is fast. The MiG-31 is going to be the fastest plane in the game. There's no shadow of a doubt about that. It can reach Mach 3, whereas most planes, most fighters are Mach 2, and the F-35, for example, is around Mach 1.5. So, yeah. Exciting stuff, very impressive performance. It was designed to intercept bombers, which is something that it did well. That is its job. And having those long-range missiles will make it very interesting in the game. Now, what's going to be awful about it is because it's so fast and built as a sort of, fast interceptor. It's not built for agility. It's going to have the turning radius of a bus, especially if you're afterburning going Mach 3, because that's what you'd expect. So that's going to be where the balance ties in. Yeah, you've got 6 R-37s, which is great, but you're going to have to face forward, which is a problem when you're going fast, because you're going to easily enter enemy A range, which is somewhere you're going to struggle. The next MiG that you see is the MiG-31K, and that is basically just with Kinjal options. The Kinjal, it's like a dagger in Russian. I think that's going to have either the explosive, so a supersonic big explosive bomb, or one with a nuclear warhead on it. So yeah, pretty damn beefy. What's interesting to note though is that the MiG-31 BM, the fighter version, those hard points can support bombs, and I think players are going to have the option to have a super high speed precision bomber, just like the F-35, apart from much faster, which is going to be really interesting. Now it is going to be a one-way trip, because obviously I've already said the turning radius is going to be that of a bus, but this is the most this plane I'm really hyped for. I genuinely can't wait. It's going to be mega. I'm super excited for it. What else can I say? Right, so enough fanboying. Last but not least, the Uran-9 with a wide arrangement of armament and a ground drone for Russia. So Russia's first drone. So really cool. America's already got the type. Christ, I need to check. What is it? It is the type. Stand by. Sorry, I have done a lot of preparation for this, as you've seen, but it's can't cover all my bases. Type X RCV. Of course I knew that off the top of my head. Right, this is Russia's answer to it. It is the Uran-9, which is a really cool bit of kit. So an answer to this bad boy right here. So what can I tell you about this bad boy bit of kit? Well, lots of things. Firstly, it's got that 30mm cannon that we've already talked about to death. So that is absolutely fine. Not worth mentioning it anymore. I think this is going to be a unit that's got ATGMs and Iglas as well. So I think you're going to be able to customize the loadout really quite well. Yeah, and honestly, look, I think you can have attackers on it. You can probably have cornets, maybe. Oh, we'll see about the cornets. It's usually more reserved for the, the barbarous and the cheap loadout and those kinds of units. I think attacker missiles is probably a fair thing to put on them, but we're just going to have to wait and see whether you can fire those missiles on the move or whether it'll have to stop to fire. Well, actually, judging by the video here, look, you have to wait for it to deploy its arms, which are super cool. I wish he'd shown us that for just a split second longer. But those arms deploying, let's just watch it again. Okay, gone back too far. That indicates to me that assembly, that whole gun platform, has to be lifted up in order to be able to fire, which is really cool. But that does also mean that it's going to be stationary when firing. So let's compare it to the Baltics version. It's obviously a much more capable platform than this, even though it's got spikes. Speed-wise, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the exact same, 14 damage. It's a bit bigger, so we'll see. Both tracked, of course. And I don't think it can carry any troops, although that would be quite a cool feature. If, the guys inside just play it like a PlayStation remote controller. That'd be cool. 80 points. Yeah, I think that's a fair price for this unit. I think actually 50 points is a super underutilized price for this. 100 points is what I'm going to say for the base model of the Russian version, but again, that's going to have a lot more capability, mixed capabilities as well, which is just super duper cool. And that's basically it. That's all the units he shows here. Now, we already know that there's going to be, bonus information time. There's going to be a Typhoon K, which is basically a transport version that is going to be able to carry 14 men. The closest thing I think to compare it to is actually going to be the MTV. It's going to be very similar in many ways to this, probably not as much cargo capacity, and I don't know if it's going to take 18 men, probably 14, but an armored version. So does that even, okay, the aesthetics don't change. Okay, let's have a look at the marine one to see if how the aesthetics change on this. Yeah, okay, that's more like it. More like one of these where it's an armored, a bit more protected. It's going to have a machine gun on top. The cord is what we've seen already. You know what? Maybe it's good to talk about this motorized car here. There we go. Armored, with a machine gun on top, with higher speed, for sure. And it's basically going to be your jump out preference for the alpha group. So when the alpha squad jumps out, that's going to be great for having those trucks in where you just smash them in, get some smoke cover, and send it. Accidentally took a screenshot, don't mind me. So yeah, very exciting. Obviously, alpha group we've talked about already. And there's just going to be a huge amount of really cool units in there. Some that he didn't showcase for us, annoyingly, because it would have been great to see it. I like the reservists as well, which are going to be very feeble but very cheap. So yeah, I've already established that this deck is going to pair well with practically everything, even the mechanized. I think it's just such a great all-rounder deck that it's going to be so much better than the Baltic DLC in pretty much every way, shape, and form. Now, don't get me wrong, this DLC is cool. It pairs well with a few certain things, but I don't think it's going to compare to how good this one is. Of course, Russia's going to get a direct answer to this, an AN-72, is it? A smaller version of the 76. Propellers, yeah, good little small transport paradrop planes. So yeah, really cool to see that in-game as well. Hope you've enjoyed my video. Hope it's been informative. Bear in mind, a lot of research has gone into this one, so please do like, comments, and you know, share the good news, because there's a lot of information there to take in. Hope you've enjoyed it though. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.